Welcome back to DangIT Plays Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Last episode, we wrapped up on the side quest. Now we're in Shibuya, just kind of looking all over the place. David gave us some reference points on like what's like the exact same here and what isn't, and just some interesting stuff about it.
Yeah, it really is a faithful recreation, except for the sparse amount of people. There is no less than like 50 million people here at any given time in Shibuya.
Alright, but now we get to go visit Barry, our trainer, and we're already dressed up.
Oh man, just listen to this guy's voice. It's beautiful because it's supposed to be a Japanese guy doing his best American accent.
Okay. Let's like turn up just a wee bit.
Yeah.
Just so I can hear it.
And he'll just occasionally throw out these English words out of
Shut
nowhere.
up! Oh my god.
I don't know. It's just some guy who figures like this is what gaijin sound like when they think they can speak Japanese, right?
Can appreciate it.
But at the same time, they have to like speak, proper Japanese. So I guess good on them for not like
Trying to
devolving into really bad Japanese with a bad accent. He speaks good Japanese with a very bad accent.
I always found that particularly in anime with Japanese dub when they tried to like bring in some English in there, it's not the greatest thing to hear. But I remember watching Assassination Classroom, like their final season. Long story short, like two characters go up in the space shuttle because they need to find out information about their teacher and how to cure them. And there were English speakers on that station, and a few of them actually spoke some really good English. So yeah, I think things are getting better. I particularly like it when they decide to add in like a full like English lyric song into something like that. So what I remember is Tokyo Ghoul, like I think it's Tokyo Ghoul Root, that has this song track called something Sky, Glassy Sky, and I really like that song. But yeah, you guys should just like give a listen to that. Even if you don't even care about like the whole story about Tokyo Ghoul, and maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't.
Now I remember what it was. So for those of you who've seen Eden of the East, like the first 2 episodes take place in New York City, because it's about this Japanese girl who's on like a graduation trip to DC in New York. And so naturally everyone in New York, no one speaks Japanese, everyone speaks English. But they in the sub, they didn't bother to hire like actual American speakers or like native English speakers. But it's probably the best display of like a Japanese native speaker trying to do English in an American accent. Like you could definitely tell that they were trying to do an American accent. They were trying their damnedest to speak English in like a proper accent. But it just still kind of shone through. It makes me giggle every time. And I know it's probably horrible, but it just makes me giggle.
I mean, it's its own entertainment value by that. And that's never now to knock someone else for trying like English when it's definitely not their native language, and they have very little training in that. I know that I'm pretty sure it's pretty expensive to hire like other people from across like the country.
I mean,
just like come over and like do some voice acting.
You'd think so, but like that's something that dominates like at least non-animated Japanese media, is that you'll see a lot of white people. It's a trend that started in the 80s because like this idea of Americanness and whiteness kind of dominated Japan's post-war aesthetic. So it just kind of became the thing to be, which explains why you see a lot of like eye correction surgeries, where there's like a form plastic surgery that will try and get your eyes rounder, or they'll reshape your nose and your cheeks to make them look more white. and it can also explain why, I forget what the Japanese term is, but like this trend of bad, like crooked teeth being attractive to make you look more British.
Wow. Okay.
It's
so weird, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if I brought this up before, but I remember for this culture class that I took in college, we watched this historical K-drama about an American doctor who came to Korea to teach Western medicine, because at that time, or before the 19th century in Korea, they were still using very like holistic and traditional Chinese medicine, or Korean medicine. But anyway, the main doctor, who was supposed to be American, was played by a Korean guy. But he did have a nurse who was played by a white actress, who
Strange.
apparently was taken straight off the street because she was a horrible actress.
Yikes.
Or like it seemed like this was her first time performing for the camera.
Wow.
I don't know where I was going with that, but I think it's just an interesting point about like where white people kind of sit in East Asian mass media.
It was also interesting. I also took like a culture class about Japan's culture, regarding pretty much like, well, it's pretty much everything, but like there was one particular portion of it where we talked about Japanese and with rap music.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of like, I don't know, I forget like what was the true significance, but a lot of people would do a lot of things like to be black.
Yeah.
It's like, it was crazy to see that, how they try to get themselves like super tan and whatnot, just so they can like be part of that culture, and how I guess like not just blacks, but just like the Western world is just seen as such a I guess what would you call it for like in the perspective of a Japanese person?
I think it's just kind of like the standard, because I think you have to kind of appreciate what kind of social political climate Japan was in during World War II, where, the main philosophy that kind of dominated society was that of Japanese supremacy. The idea that, like, the Asian race was something diametrically separate from, like, the white European race, and that it was something more perfect. So when you grow up thinking that, and then when your country, which is supposed to be infallible, is dominated by white Americans, I guess you see this paradigm shift where, okay, that becomes the new standard of perfection. And also the US certainly pushed that onto the US. Like, Japanese methods of filmmaking were kind of pushed aside from our Western styles of filmmaking.
I guess.
And, as well as Western themes in film and in fashion. And I guess to some extent cuisine during the Reconstruction period, during the 80s onward. So I guess that, and yeah, I think what you were saying about Japanese rap is kind of interesting in that it is a very like uniquely Japanese worldview of the world, right? Like we have this art form which we appreciate, and we have kind of a vague understanding of what makes this art form good. So you would study traditional like American rap, and you want to emulate that as much as possible. Even things which aren't necessarily conducive to making good rap are also copied.
Yeah. All right, so
yes, sir.
we're talking about other things. We're talking about Japanese culture versus American culture, or at least the Western world culture.
Yeah, I've been banging it.
And it's not like I know this part of the story where Barry's just being such an asshole to Tsubasa.
Yeah. Stop it!
Such a waste of my goddamn time. I could be buying anime. I could be waiting in line right now. Itsuki, come with me. What?
Other than they make him just the stereotypical otaku. It's just me if I was blonde and musically inclined.
Well, it seems like he's pretty successful at it.
Yeah. Hey, if you good at what you do, it's whatever.
I guess so. I do like Tsubasa's outfit, particularly the pin on her hair, which is like for like the Pegasus Night.
Yeah.
It's cool. So we got her like really down, and Itsuki's like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry, we're all comfortable. We're in nice, like, comfortable clothing, and we're alone in this small, hot room.
We're alone. Let's just do
this small hot room.
Let's do things. Let's just do things. And Itsuki's like, that's Tsubasa talking to Itsuki, and he's like, what kind of stuff? She just kind of gives up halfway, like. But yeah, here's Itsuki just trying to cheer her up. You know, in just regular Itsuki fashion, completely oblivious to the other thing.
The interactions between Itsuki and Tsubasa kind of irk me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the game hints that there's a sort of like canon relationship here. But, I mean, of course, idols can't have romantic relationships, but they don't directly address that anywhere in the game. It's just kind of, Itsuki is oblivious. They had a good chance to kind of explore, you know, how idols have to cope with contractually not being able to engage in a romantic relationship, but they tiptoed around it.
I guess they wanted to keep this a really positive type of game. Like there's something like evil going on. You can definitely tell like by the beginning of the story, but then what it's trying to do is just kind of uplift your spirits and give you like a different way of thinking of, I guess maybe this is like more subconscious, but like the idea of Japanese idols. Just give them, show them in a brighter light.
I mean, I think that's fair, but I think overall the game just kind of comes across as very toothless that way, because like, you know, in mainstream media, what Japanese idols are, they're already put in this light. We already see them as like being entertaining and like they have like a really cushy life.
Yeah. For
this game to kind of perpetuate that and not look at the actual darker aspects, other than, oh, we have to train a lot, oh, we have a lot of exercise we have to do, and all, you know, etc., etc. For it to just, you know, gloss over things that we can actually think about, or maybe like confuse our image about what idols are, just kind of downgrades the game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like I think I know. I think I know what's gonna happen right now.
Oh my God! It's Kiryu-sama.
What you gotta say? We'll find out in the next episode.
Oh boy. What do you gotta say? What do you gotta say?
Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
We did absolutely nothing
but talk.
Hopefully, our commentary was enough to keep you engaged in some capacity.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. We'll see you guys in the next episode. #bye.
#bye.